Hi you guys, it's me again, wearing the same clothes because I'm filming on the same day from my last video. So this particular video is going to be about Stella. It's really Stella's birth story. Tony and I always knew we wanted kids from the get-go. From when we first started going out, we knew we wanted kids right away. When we moved in 2011, it was always like acceptable if we became pregnant. We were shocked that we weren't having any luck. So in 2016, which is 5 years after we had moved in together, I went to see a OBGYN and I learned that I have something called PCOS, which is a hormonal disorder of some kind. And so basically what that means is that it's a little harder for people like me with PCOS to get pregnant. It's not impossible, it's just a little more difficult. It was a really uncomfortable experience for me. So he took a big old camera tube thing and he was doing an ultrasound with it, and so he had to move around in there a little bit. That was awkward, but Socorro was there the whole time. She's very supportive, and the doctor was showing me on the ultrasound monitor, these are your ovaries, these are your eggs, and apparently I have a lot of eggs in there, so I can't wait for you to be born. Apparently I have something called polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, and I still have to do a lot of research on it. But I tested my blood to see if it's any other hormonal or thyroid issue, and once everything else gets rolled out, it probably will be polycystic ovary syndrome. If by maybe age 34 I'm still not conceiving you, then the doctor is going to help me with that. Okay, so that's kind of where we're standing at right now. We already kind of knew, oh man, this might be difficult to do, and we started trying, and then we bought a house. My dad passed away, we got a pug, my mother-in-law moved in with us, so many things were happening that we left the baby wagon in the background. Like, we didn't really try. And then when we stopped trying, we suddenly got pregnant. We learned that Stella was coming into the world. The first month of my pregnancy, I was actually participating in a fast, which is not unusual for me to do. It's just something I like to do. I like to fast a lot. My diet consisted of 5 shakes a day and some water, and that's it. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was a month into my fast, and I was extremely nervous that could affect the baby. And I was really happy to hear the baby's heartbeat. Stella was doing fine. Everything was great. I was actually also a little nervous because I had heard a rumor that when you have PCOS, it's a little more difficult for you to keep the baby in there. And so I heard from a nurse, though, that was not true. That once you're pregnant, whether you have PCOS or not, you're just like everybody else. So that made me feel a little safer. Yeah. We didn't find out we were having a girl until 5 months in. So it was somewhere in October. And we had a baby gender reveal. The answer is in here. And she's taking the envelope, the proof.
No me preocupe, va a ser una sorpresa para que digan ¡wow!
Hi baby, it's your mommy and daddy. We're about to find out if you're born. an envelope from the doctor, and then I handed it over to my best friend, and my best friend knew the gender of my baby way before I did. And on our gender reveal, a huge balloon popped out of a box telling us that we were gonna have a baby girl, and I was just ecstatic. Everybody that looked at my stomach always told me that based on how low or how high or how it looked, that I was having a boy. I would say maybe 7 out of 8 people would tell me I was having a boy, and a lot of these older Mexican ladies professed that they had a bit of a gift about this, that they knew that they had never been wrong whenever they predicted the sex of a baby. And so I immediately believed them and thought, oh gosh, I guess I'm having a boy. And so when I saw that balloon pop out of the box and it said girl in it, I was just super excited. I honestly felt like I was gonna have my Gilmore Girls moment, because I always wanted a daughter so that I could have a relationship kind of like Lorelai and Rory have. It's just something I've always dreamt about. Fast forward a few more months, and it's February 26th, and I have a doctor's appointment at 8 in the morning. Stella is due 3 days from then, March 1st. And so I'm not worried. I don't feel different. I just don't feel different. I don't feel bad or anything. So I go fully convinced that I'm going to go to the doctor's office, and then I'm just going to go home. Unfortunately, when we get to the doctor's office, my doctor says, hey, you know, I feel like your blood pressure is a little high. I just want to send you to the hospital just to make sure that, you know, if we could lower it, then you can go home. So I go to the hospital and I don't make it out.
Press the board down to move 15 items, then select the option you want.
Press the instruct color system.
Well, look, when you talk about his statement on that, when you talk about him calling African countries S-hole countries, when you talk about him referring to immigrants as rapists and murderers, I don't think he's very terrible.
So you definitely
I have the drug company executive sharing the right now.
Tomorrow live at 10 Eastern. That's something I do want to watch.
What?
Michael Cohen's testimony.
It's tomorrow?
Yeah. A las 10, which would be 7 here.
John, Americans spend more on prescription drugs than...
I'm still waiting for the hand to go like this.
I don't
Like-
think it's gonna happen
Like
because
Alien.
I think it's not gonna happen because I'm chunky. Like if I was really, really skinny, then maybe. Pero como tengo bien mucha fat, she's pretty well protected in there.
Just cushion.
Yeah, she's got a lot of cushion.
They end up inducing labor because of how high my blood pressure is. And I just remember it being like 3 p.m. and then I told Tony, you need to go get me something to eat. The nurse said that's a good idea, because as soon as you get into labor, you're not going to be able to eat. And so Tony goes, gets me some carne asada fries. I remember that very clearly because it's the most delicious, probably the most delicious meal I've ever had, because I was so hungry. They take me into this room. I guess it's like a delivery room, and Tony goes and hangs out in the couch while I'm laying in bed, and I'm really not feeling anything different. I'm just watching TV, kind of looking through my phone, just hanging out. I'm not trying to tell anybody about what's going on. Kind of want to keep it a secret until the baby's out. I don't know why. And then 3 p.m. turns into 7 p.m., which turns into 10 p.m., which turns into 12 a.m. Tony's passed out and asleep on the couch, and I'm already starting to feel the labor pains. I haven't been able to sleep, and now sleep is really not coming because it hurts so bad. And I kind of trail in and out of sleep after that. And I do remember waking up really early in the morning with a few pains. It's like really, really, really bad cramps. That's how it felt at first. It wasn't until like 3 p.m. the next day, which is February 27, when the pain really started to kick in. It was not just bad cramps anymore. It was just something a little more. And somewhere around 7 p.m. I ordered an epidural because it hurt so bad, and I was already dilated enough. And I remember feeling the most delicious sensation of just like, oof, just that relaxation of no more pain. And that lasted for like 8 minutes. Apparently there's a certain percentage of women in this world that epidural does not affect, and I was one of them. It affected me for 8 minutes, but then the yumminess was over, the pain was back. And so this like realization that I'm about to have this baby, like full on natural labor, and there's nothing I could do about it, really spooked the crap out of me. Now this is a good time for me to share that the doctor had already told me that the baby was a little bigger, 8 pounds. It's what the doctor predicted. And she did say, since my cervix is so little, that it might have been a good idea for me to schedule in a C-section, just because the baby can fracture an arm on her way out or something of that nature. And then there was definitely going to be some ripping down there. And so I said, no, you know, with a little bit of an epidural, I could take it. And so I just remember telling myself, why didn't I go for the C-section? Why didn't I go for the C-section? And the pain wasn't going away, and they administered another epidural. Yeah. And it still wasn't going away. So this time it kind of lasted less. I think the pain only went away for like 4 or 5 minutes, and then it was back. And so it was really crazy. And the baby wasn't coming. I was pushing, and it felt so good to push. I remember the great feeling of pushing. It's almost as delicious as the epidural. But the baby wasn't coming. And somewhere around, I want to say like 8 p.m. ish, a little past 8 p.m., one of the nurses called a doctor in who just happened to be walking down the hall. Very movie-like, I know. And I remember just saying, ow. And then she said, you felt that? You're not supposed to feel that. You have an epidural. And I just remember saying, oh no, I felt that. And then she said, okay, I think it would be a good idea to take you down to get a C-section. This is not an emergency C-section. You're fine. But you've been pushing for a while. You look beat. I think this is the best thing to do. And so we do that. They roll me down, and I remember feeling so scared. Tony at one point said, listen, I'm gonna step outside and I'm gonna tell my mom that you're getting a C-section. And I can tell in his face that he probably wanted to cry, but I just held him. And it's very rare that I'm this vulnerable with Tony, but I just remember holding him and saying, you're not going anywhere, please don't leave me. And he's like, okay. And he stuck around, and he had to call his mom on the phone to let her know. By the way, Tony's mom, my grandmother, and my uncle, an aunt, and a cousin of mine were all outside in the waiting room. They wanted to be indoors when I was having the baby, and a few of them were going to be able to stay inside with me, but I got really self-conscious, and I hated the idea of people looking at the baby being born and looking at my body, you know. And I just said, get out, please get out. I'm sorry, I love you, but get out. I can't have anybody in here. I just want Tony. And I feel really bad for my mom. I actually wanted my mom in there as well, but I would feel bad kicking Socorro out, which is Tony's mom, and not my mom. So I'm like, sorry mom, you're gonna have to wait outside too. They were okay with it as long as I was feeling good and okay. They didn't mind. And so we go down to the C-section, and I remember when they injected me with all the drugs, it just felt so good. I don't think I've ever felt so good in my life. I was just woohoo, having a party because all of the pain went away. Stella was born at 9/12. I still remember hearing her cry and feeling so sad that I couldn't see her come out of me. But then in retrospect, that's probably a better idea, because I don't know how I would have reacted if I saw a baby with all that but blood coming out of me. Anyway, TMI. We got to hold her, and she was this really, really fat baby, which wasn't very surprising since I did put on like 50 pounds. I know, yeah.
Look at the camera first before you cut.
Okay.
Okay, she's doing a video. Okay. Awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. No, I'm sorry.
The baby's here, and I just remember shaking a lot, like almost like, and it was uncontrollable after having Stella. And I think that's like my body getting rid of all the drugs that were in my system, and I couldn't stop shaking. After that, they took us to a recovery room where we spent the next 2 nights. I got to go home early because I started walking the next day, and I was able to shower, and I was able to move around. Stella was able to latch fine. Everything went well. So they let me go home early, and that was that. I just remember spending the first few days just in awe of my baby, in awe of myself that I had done that. And I'm a mom now. This realization that I'm a mom. I'm actually a mom. My whole life I never thought that I could be a mom, and now I was a mom, and we brought baby home, and Stella was just Stella. It felt like Stella had always been there, you know. I think for my next video I'd like to talk about Stella's first year of life, just because I want to just freeze it in time. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys for the next video.